Have you ever wondered what the deadliest event in Earth's history was? It wasn't the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, not even close. We're talking about an apocalypse so complete, it came terrifyingly close to sterilizing our entire planet. This is the story of the Great Dying, the end Permian mass extinction, which happened around 250 million years ago. A world teeming with life, a vibrant planet long before the age of dinosaurs. On land, strange, mammal-like reptiles and bizarre amphibians roamed lush forests. In the oceans, coral reefs larger than any we have today supported an incredible diversity of marine creatures. Life was thriving, but all of that was about to change. An invisible timer was ticking down to zero, and when it hit, the world would be plunged into a living nightmare. Unlike the famous dinosaur extinction, this one wasn't caused by a rock from space. The culprit came from deep within the Earth itself. In what is now modern-day Siberia, the ground began to split open. It wasn't just one volcano. It was a colossal volcanic event known as the Siberian Traps. Fissures miles long tore across the landscape, spewing unimaginable amounts of lava. This wasn't a short-lived eruption. It was a volcanic pulse that lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, covering an area larger than Western Europe in a sea of molten rock, in some places several miles thick. The immediate effect of these eruptions was devastating. The first chemical weapon unleashed was sulfur dioxide. Billions of tons of this gas shot into the atmosphere, mixing with water to create powerful acid rain. This acid rain fell relentlessly across the globe, burning through forests and poisoning soils. Plants, the foundation of every ecosystem, withered and died on a massive scale. With the skies choked by volcanic ash and sulfide aerosols, sunlight was blocked out. This triggered a phenomenon known as a volcanic winter. The vibrant, warm world of the Permian was suddenly plunged into a deep freeze. For creatures adapted to a stable climate, this was a death sentence. But the volcanic winter was just the opening act of this planetary disaster. As the initial sulfur and ash began to settle, a far more insidious killer took its place: carbon dioxide. The Siberian Traps were also pumping out staggering quantities of CO2, a potent greenhouse gas. After the initial cooling, the planet's thermostat was cranked up to an extreme. The Earth began to heat up, and it happened fast. Global average temperatures may have soared by as much as 10 degrees Celsius, or even more. This wasn't a gentle warming. It was a runaway greenhouse effect on a planetary scale. The ice from the volcanic winter melted, and the warming continued unabated. On land, the surviving ecosystems, already battered by acid rain and cold, now faced scorching heat and relentless drought. Without herbivores, carnivores soon followed. The world fell silent. The oceans are the planet's great regulator, absorbing heat and CO2. But there's a limit. As the seas warmed, they began to lose their ability to hold dissolved oxygen, much like a warm can of soda goes flat faster than a cold one. This deoxygenation started at the surface and spread downwards. Warm water is less dense than cold water, which stopped the vital ocean currents that circulate oxygen from the surface to the deep sea. The oceans became stagnant. Stratified layers of warm oxygen pour water on top of cold, lifeless depths. For the vast majority of marine life that needed oxygen to breathe, the oceans were becoming a giant suffocation chamber. And then something truly horrific began to happen in these oxygen-starved waters. A specific type of bacteria that thrives in oxygen, high-sulfur environments began to flourish. These microbes produce a deadly poison as a waste product: hydrogen sulfide gas. This toxic gas, which smells like rotten eggs, started building up in the deep ocean. As the concentration of hydrogen sulfide grew, it saturated the deep water and began to bubble up to the surface. It poisoned everything it touched, turning the once thriving shallow seas into a toxic soup. Marine life that had somehow survived the heat and lack of oxygen was now hit by this chemical warfare. It's believed that the gas was so concentrated, it even escaped into the atmosphere, poisoning terrestrial life, and some scientists theorize shredding the ozone layer, allowing deadly UV radiation to bake the surface of the Earth. Imagine standing on a shoreline 250 million years ago. The air is thick with the smell of rotten eggs and volcanic fumes. Sky is a hazy, sickly yellow. The ocean, once blue and full of life, is now a weird purplish color, bubbling with toxic gas, its shores littered with the dead. This was the reality during the Great Dying. But the planet wasn't done yet. There was one final terrifying feedback loop. Trapped in the frozen seabeds and permafrost were vast reserves of methane, another incredibly potent greenhouse gas. As the planet heated up, these frozen deposits began to melt, releasing massive quantities of methane into the atmosphere.
Wow.
This is what we call a methane burp. This injection of methane supercharged the global warming already caused by the CO2, pushing temperatures even higher and accelerating the catastrophe. It was a vicious cycle. Warming released methane, which caused more warming, which released more methane. The planet's climate system was spiraling out of control. When the dust, or rather the lava and gas, finally settled, the devastation was almost total. Scientists estimate that around 95% of all marine species and 70% of all terrestrial vertebrate species went extinct. Entire families of animals were wiped off the face of the Earth forever. Trilobites, which had survived for over 270 million years, were gone. The vast coral reefs vanished. The world's forests were decimated. Life on Earth had been pushed to the very brink of annihilation. It's the closest our planet has ever come to being completely sterilized. The recovery was painfully slow. It took millions of years for ecosystems to rebuild and for life to regain its complexity. The world that emerged from the ashes of the Permian was a different place.